25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
He's announced a 25% tariff on all cars imported into the United States from the 2nd of April.
Don't even start with the rumors. This is the real story, and Canada's right at the center of it. Imagine this, one of America's most iconic car makers, Ford, making a move so massive that even Detroit, the traditional heart of U.S. auto, is stunned. A $3 billion shift, a decision that puts Southern Ontario on the map and makes Canada the new star in North America's auto drama. This isn't fiction, it's not speculation, it's a real pivot, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The story begins with Canada. Ford has committed a staggering $3 billion to revive and retool its Oakville assembly plant in Ontario, a site many thought was winding down after production of the Ford Edge ended. Instead of quietly fading away, Oakville is roaring back to life. The move is designed to transform the site into a major hub for producing Ford's F-Series Super Duty trucks, one of the most in-demand vehicle lines in North America. By 2026, Oakville will have the capacity to roll out as many as 100,000 trucks a year. That is not a minor adjustment, that is a shockwave. For Canadian workers, the announcement meant salvation. About 1,800 jobs at Oakville were saved almost overnight. Over at Windsor's engine complex, another 150 positions secured. Even in the United States, Ford's component plants will add around 70 jobs to keep up with the surge. This is not a story of abandonment, but of redistribution, and Canada happens to be the winner. The timing is critical. The Oakville plant had gone silent in May 2024 after the last Edge rolled off the line. EV production was delayed. Workers were staring down the reality of job losses and an uncertain future. Just months later, Ford flipped the script, announcing in July 2024 that Oakville would be resurrected, not for electric vehicles yet, but for the company's most profitable workhorses, Super Duty pickups. Why? The explanation is simple but powerful. Demand for the F-Series Super Duty is off the charts. Factories in Kentucky and Ohio are already stretched to the limit, running near maximum capacity. Ford needed another solution, and fast. Oakville offered the perfect answer. It had the infrastructure, the talent, and, crucially, the support of both provincial and federal governments in Canada, which were ready to back the project. For Ford, it wasn't about fleeing the United States, it was about optimizing its footprint across the continent. The impact has been immediate. Southern Ontario now finds itself as the third major North American hub for Super Duty production, joining Kentucky and Ohio in the company's elite lineup. Oakville won't just assemble trucks, it will also integrate stamping operations on site, giving it greater autonomy and faster turnaround. Windsor, meanwhile, will play a vital supporting role, ensuring the engine supply keeps pace with the expanded production schedule. This interconnected web across Canada and the US reshapes the geography of Ford's operations. But let's not downplay what this means for Detroit. Factories there aren't shutting down, but the symbolism is heavy. Detroit built its reputation as the beating heart of America's auto industry. To watch Ford pour billions into Canada, to see thousands of jobs created or saved across the border, naturally raises questions. Is this the start of a slow erosion of Detroit's dominance? Or is it simply the reality of a globalized auto market where efficiency trumps nostalgia? The answer may be both. Analysts point out that Ford has to juggle multiple pressures at once: surging demand for pickups, supply chain vulnerabilities, and the costly transition to electric vehicles. EVs were supposed to be Oakville's future, but the timeline slipped. In the meantime, Ford couldn't afford to let the site sit idle. Trucks, not EVs, offered the surest path to profitability. So, Oakville's revival is partly a bridge, buying Ford time until it can transition more fully into electric. Some call it a temporary fix, others see it as a bold masterstroke. From a Canadian perspective, the significance is enormous. Auto jobs are highly prized, especially in Ontario, where manufacturing forms the backbone of the provincial economy. This $3 billion investment ensures stability for workers and sends a message. Canada is not just a secondary partner in North American auto, it's a central pillar. Politically, it plays into Prime Minister Mark Carney's narrative of resilience and competitiveness, especially as Canada navigates US tariffs and trade wars. Economically, it strengthens Canada's bargaining power in supply chains, positioning it as an indispensable player in the continental auto landscape. For the United States, reactions are mixed. On one hand, Ford emphasized that this move doesn't mean less U.S. production. Kentucky and Ohio remain full steam ahead. Component factories in America are even adding jobs to support the Canadian expansion. But symbolically, Detroit sees emptier floors while Oakville fills with workers again. And in a political climate where trade wars and tariffs dominate headlines, optics matter. Former President Donald Trump has repeatedly hammered automakers for fleeing U.S. soil, and moves like this provide him ammunition, even if the reality is far more nuanced. The longer-term consequences stretch even further. If Oakville succeeds in producing 100,000 trucks annually, Canada cements itself as Ford's indispensable partner for heavy-duty pickups. Windsor, too, secures its place in Ford's supply chain. And when the eventual EV transition resumes, Oakville will already have the infrastructure, workforce, and credibility to pivot seamlessly into electrified models. What started as a rescue mission could become the foundation of a long-term manufacturing renaissance in Canada. Interesting details keep surfacing. Oakville will become only the third plant in all of North America to assemble Super Duty trucks. That's a level of exclusivity that underscores Ford's confidence in the site. The decision also means the plant will be busier than anyone expected just a year ago, with stamping capabilities on site making it more efficient than ever. Another insight is the dual nature of Ford's Canadian gamble. On the one hand, it's a defensive move against capacity shortages. On the other, it's an offensive play, leveraging government support and securing a future-proof site right across the border. So where does this leave us today, in September 2025? Oakville is deep into retooling, aiming for the 2026 launch. Windsor is gearing up to handle the additional engine load. U.S. component plants are hiring. Ford's electric strategy, while delayed, remains on the table, with Oakville ready to transition when the market is right. For now, the focus is clear: meet demand, stabilize jobs, and prove that Ford can deliver in both Canada and the United States. The bigger question is what happens next. Will General Motors or Stellantis follow with similar cross-border plays? Will the U.S. government respond with new incentives to keep investments stateside? And how will this shape the auto industry's delicate balancing act between traditional trucks and the EV future? These are questions that hang over Detroit, Ottawa, and Washington alike. Here's the takeaway: Ford didn't flee the United States. They didn't abandon Detroit. They optimized their strategy, and Canada came out ahead. A $3 billion decision has turned Oakville from a fading memory into a future powerhouse. Detroit may be watching nervously, but the truth is, this is what survival looks like in a brutally competitive global industry. The auto wars aren't about loyalty anymore, they're about adaptation. So, let me ask you this: when global companies make billion-dollar moves, are they really fleeing one country, or are they simply chasing efficiency wherever it makes sense? And if that's the reality, what does that mean for Detroit's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just about Ford, it's about the direction of an entire industry. And if you want to stay ahead of these seismic shifts, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again next time.